Remember when we couldn't apply our own armor mods? When we didn't have class abilities? Or when there was no crossplay? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Destiny has been out nearly 10 years now, and so many gameplay improvements have been made in that time. I wanted to take a look at some of the most positive changes and additions made in the last decade. But before we begin, I wanted to outline the criteria for this list. First, I will not be going over every single change made throughout Destiny. If there has been changes made that have since been reverted, those will be omitted from the list. To sum up what I mean, this list is basically comparing where Destiny 1 is in the current day to where Destiny 2 is currently, which is shortly after the launch of the Final Shape expansion. Next, I will be breaking this list down into different categories, these being game function, quality of life, general gameplay, armor and weapons, subclass and abilities, and customization. Note that some things may fall into multiple categories. And lastly, I won't be talking about general content additions such as campaigns, strikes, game modes, and lore. I wanted to stick to general gameplay and quality of life improvements for the most part. I may make a video regarding general content in the future, and keep an eye out for a future video of things that Destiny 1 did better than 2. When uploaded, I will link that in the pinned comment below. Now that the criteria for the list has been addressed, let's take a look at our first category. Game function. One of the first things we'll talk about isn't a game function per se, but it's one of the biggest changes made to the Destiny universe, and that is Destiny going free to play. One of the biggest changes made to Destiny over time has been the move to free to play. For all of Destiny 1, and even the first 2 years of Destiny 2, you had to purchase the base game in order to play. Even purchasing and playing expansions required the base game. Platforms. Destiny 1 was never released for the PC. Additionally, it was also playable on the Xbox 360 and PS3 up until Rise of Iron. Now Destiny 2 is available on multiple platforms including Xbox, PlayStation, Windows Games, Epic Games, and Steam. 30 frames per second. Destiny 1's frame rate was capped at 30 frames per second, so it may feel a bit sluggish compared to where Destiny is currently at. Menu settings. Many menu settings have been added in Destiny 2, such as a field of view slider, a full auto setting for weapons and melee, extra sensitivity settings, and much, much more. Crossplay and progression. Destiny 1 was not crossplay, nor did it have cross progression. Now you can play Destiny 2 with people on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Windows, and Epic. You can also link your Bungie account and use the same character and gear on any of the mentioned platforms whenever you choose. This next category is quality of life. In-game LFG. Introduced during the year of Lightfall, Fireteam Finder was an addition fans have been asking for since the beginning. You're able to host or look for a group to tackle any number of Destiny's activities. From Destiny 1 up until this point, players had to rely on external sources to look for groups if an activity didn't have matchmaking. Seasons. As controversial as they are, Destiny 2 introduced seasons during Forsaken. Now called episodes, they are meant to give players additional missions, activities, gear, and storylines throughout the year to keep from having long content droughts like we had back in Destiny 1. Collections. Destiny 1 does have collection kiosks spread throughout the tower. Destiny 2 stepped it up a notch and allows you to view and reacquire most gear that you found while you were anywhere in the game. The Vault. Vault space has been heavily increased compared to Destiny 1, going from 108 weapons, 108 armor, and 72 general items to a whopping 700 total spaces currently in Destiny 2. Loadouts. Loadouts were introduced during Lightfall and are probably one of my favorite quality of life additions. Loadouts are a quick way to swap around gear on the go. You can seamlessly swap your guns, armor, mods, subclasses, abilities, and even armor fashion in just seconds now. Progression. In early Destiny 1, character progression was pretty limited and linear. By Rise of Iron, there are more ways to hit the max gear level, but in Destiny 2, there are an even larger number of paths to achieve this. So people can specialize in one area of progression if that's their choice, whether it be raids, dungeons, crucible, vanguard, strikes, exotic missions, seasonal missions, or Gambit.
Oh!
There are just so many more options when it comes to leveling up. Side note, even free players have the ability to hit max rank. Lore. In Destiny 1, there was very little lore in the game. You would unlock Grimoire cards, which then you could view on Bungie's website to give you the lore that was associated with them. Now, all lore you acquire can be viewed in-game. Exotic gear also has a lore tab right on the screen. Clan system. Clans existed in Destiny 1, but were basically limited to an extra friends list in-game and a clan tag. In Destiny 2, there is a whole reward track, weekly challenges, bounties, clan banner upgrades, and more. It also includes the ability to invite people in-game to your clan. I made a video on the history of the clan feature in Destiny, which will be on the screen now if you're interested. Reputation tracks. Most vendors now have reputation tracks. There are versions of this in Destiny 1, but they have been vastly improved in Destiny 2. These tracks normally contain upgrade materials, exotics, legendary weapons and armor, and can usually be reset to access new rewards and perks. The next category of this list is general gameplay. Sprint. In Destiny 1, you couldn't just sprint forever. So after I recorded the audio for this video talking about that, I actually discovered that shortly after the release of Destiny 2, Destiny 1 was actually updated to have no more sprint cooldown. I was getting gameplay footage for this video when I discovered the change, and I could only find the change mentioned in a Reddit thread from 2017. Another piece of movement tech not presented in Destiny 1 was the ability to mantle. In Destiny 2, as long as your head is above the platform, you can mantle up on top of it, saving you from that embarrassing fall into oblivion. Class abilities. Aside from just a grenade and melee ability, Destiny 2 introduced a third called a class ability, Hunters having a dodge, Titans a rally barricade, and Warlocks a rift. Each of those having different versions and abilities to choose from to keep building around them unique. Primary ammo. Gone are the days of running out of ammo for your primary weapon. Destiny 2 currently has unlimited primary ammo, preventing those awkward moments when you can't shoot anything, as well as all those little white ammo boxes cluttering up the battlefield. Map and fast travel. In order to travel to a new destination in Destiny 1, you had to always go to orbit first. Once landed, you wouldn't have a map to know which direction you wanted to go. Destiny 2 introduced a map where you can always view your current area as well as fast travel without having to go to orbit first. Darkness elements. Arc, Solar, and Void were all light elements we can wield. We have since been introduced to darkness elements, Stasis and Strand. Just like the light elements, we have entire subclasses and weapon damage types based around them. Enemy factions. Destiny 2 kept the main enemy races of the Cabal, Hive, Fallen, Vex, and Taken that were in Destiny 1, while also introducing variations of them such as the Scorn and Light-Bearing Hive, and more recently introducing an entirely new race called the Dread. Enemy shield pop. In Destiny 1, you did additional damage to an enemy shield if you matched its element. In Destiny 2, that's still the case, but after you pop the shield, the enemy will emit an elemental explosion, dealing additional damage and hurting nearby enemies. Champions. Whether we wanted it or not, we got champions in Destiny 2 Shadowkeep. While some people despise them, they were introduced as a challenging new enemy for endgame content. Champions have to be stunned a certain way in order to increase your damage or prevent them from healing. Each season introduces new artifact perks that allow certain guns to stun certain champions. There is also a screen that indicates what champions can be stunned by what abilities as well. Patrol. While I didn't want to get into any specific activity changes in this video, I'm making an exception for Patrol mode. Patrolling in Destiny 2 has a lot more variety than in D1. From discovering lost sectors, those being like hidden mini dungeons, public events with mechanics to turn them heroic to get more rewards, or any number of secret paths and collectibles, patrolling has a lot more to do and a lot more to explore than ever before. This next category will discuss armor and weapons. Level and upgrade requirements. Destiny 2 has gotten rid of two overly grindy features in regards to gear. One is no longer requiring you to be a certain level to equip them, and two is no longer requiring you to have to upgrade the gear to unlock all of its perks, aside from weapon crafting. This allows any level player to equip anything that they earn right away, and use it to most of its full potential. Masterworking. Now I just said most of its full potential. Another upgrade that can be done to all legendary and exotic gear is Masterworking. Masterworking weapons will increase the stat of that weapon frame, such as increasing reload speed or weapon range, while Masterworking armor gives +2 in every stat. Masterworking also gives a gold border around the gear icon, which is shiny, and Destiny players like shiny. Weapon archetypes. There are so many different types of weapons offered in Destiny, and since Destiny 1, many categories of weapons have been added, such as grenade launchers, glaives, bows, trace rifles, and submachine guns. Weapon crafting and enhancing. Weapon crafting was introduced during the Witch Queen expansion. Certain weapons have a thing called deep sight resonance within them that can be extracted. Leveling up a crafted weapon, or a lot of weapons introduced around the final shape, allows you to upgrade your perks to enhanced versions. Weapon traits and perks. Staying in the same lane, weapons have a much more robust assortment of perks, traits, and upgrades. Most weapons have origin traits that give certain boosts based on the source it drops from. And the very large number of different perk combinations keep every new gun you get something to consider using. Perks that can freeze enemies, dealing more damage when surrounded, or even reloading after a kill, healing you and your allies. The endless amount of options really make every gun feel like it can have some valuable combinations. Weapon catalysts. Many exotic weapons in Destiny 2 have something called a catalyst. Catalysts are an upgrade that typically adds new abilities to an exotic weapon. Some catalysts can be found in the wild, while some require lengthy quest lines to acquire. Catalysts can be the reason an exotic weapon is so sought after. Some upgrades could include reloading your weapon automatically, applying an extra buff or debuff on the enemy, or even making all of your fire team's rockets do more damage. Weapon variety. The last general upgrade to the weapon sandbox is the variety of weapons in each slot. In Destiny 1, you would almost never find a shotgun in the primary slot, or a sword in the special slot. But in Destiny 2, you never know which slot a weapon could be in: a primary sniper, a special sidearm, or a heavy trace rifle. The variety makes for some interesting loadout creations. Armor stats. In Destiny 1, armor would roll 2 of 3 stats, those being either discipline, intellect, or strength. The other 3 main abilities, being mobility, resilience, and recovery, were all relegated to your subclass. Now in Destiny 2, all 6 of those stats are prevalent on all armor pieces. Armor mods. In Destiny 1, armor dropped with static upgrades that you could slowly unlock. In D2, every piece of armor you get is fully customizable perk-wise. You can upgrade the energy of your armor, and doing so unlocks more space to slot more mods. Mods cost a certain amount and can range from allowing you to hold more rocket launcher ammo, reduce incoming flinch when aiming a certain weapon type, or even dealing more damage of a certain type after picking up an orb of power. There is a large amount of options to further improve build crafting. Exotic class items. In D1, exotic class items did very little. Each faction had one, and it would just increase faction reputation. The Taken King added some that would improve your XP gains for the new subclasses, but in D2, exotic class items were reintroduced in the final shape. These items are extremely unique in that they combine the main aspects of 2 other exotic pieces of armor, all rolled into one. So you could be a warlock and actually have 2 perks that are found on Titan exotics. The main caveat is that they are only able to be worn while using the prismatic subclass. Next, we'll talk about subclass and abilities. More subclasses. By the end of Destiny 1, each main class had 3 subclasses: Solar, Void, and Arc. Currently, we have 3 more: Stasis, Strand, and Prismatic, the latter being a class that combines the abilities from the other 5 subclasses: Fragments and Aspects. The subclass ability and upgrade system has been overhauled many times in Destiny's history. We are currently in the Subclass 3.0 era of Destiny, where we have the largest amount of options and variety than we've ever had. The biggest feature being aspects and fragments. Each subclass has you choose 2 aspects, which give you a new ability or effect, such as spawning an arc buddy over your shoulder that shoots enemies, gives you a banner of war that heals you and your team, or allows you to dive at the ground and freeze people. Combine these with a large amount of fragments, each with smaller, more unique effects. There is more variety than ever when creating a great subclass build that synergizes with exotics and gear mods. Subclass verbs. Continuing on the synergy between subclasses and gear is subclass verbs. Each subclass has many effects that now have keywords associated with them. Remembering these keywords and how to enact them can make the difference in a successful build for certain activities. Like with Solar, you can have verbs like Radiant, which gives a percentage buff to weapon damage, Scorch, where an enemy burns and acquires Scorch stacks over time, and Ignitions, which causes a large explosion on the enemy when they reach 100 Scorch stacks. There are dozens of these types of words and effects throughout each subclass, and learning how to build and synergize around these is what makes the differences in the endgame. Artifacts. Artifacts were present at the end of Destiny 1, but they had very different effects. Some would change the color of your screen, while some gave you large gameplay changes like unlimited sprint and the ability to turn an enemy to your team for a short time. Seriously, Bungie, I wish this was still a thing. This may be a contentious topic in the community, but I personally think artifacts in D2 are better. One reason being, a lot of the artifact buffs in D1 are in the game already as basic gameplay changes or fragments. And the other reason being D2's artifact keep the game feeling fresh. Every season we earn a new artifact and they always have new effects that can give certain abilities and guns a time to shine for a while. For better or worse, it forces you to come up with new strategies for build crafting and conquering endgame content every few months. Finishers. Finishers were introduced in Shadowkeep. Whenever an enemy's health is low, you can instantly kill them by performing a finisher. This can save you ammo, or even initiate different buffs and effects for you and your team. The last topic we're going to cover is customization. Character recreation. Until recently, the only way to edit your character's face appearance was to create a whole new one. Now you have the ability to edit your character's face on the login screen. The only feature you cannot edit is your race, those being human, exo, or awoken. Armor transmog. Gone are the days of everybody looking similar due to the best gear being on an endgame path. Now you can acquire materials to transform your gear to look like any armor that you've ever acquired in the game. With a seemingly unlimited amount of armor combinations, you can make your Guardian look exactly how you wish while still retaining the stat distribution of your best gear. Shaders. In Destiny 1, shaders applied to your entire character. In Destiny 2, you can apply shaders to each individual piece of gear, including all of your guns and your ghost. Emotes. Destiny 1 only allowed you to have one custom emote at a time. D2 changed this to a total of 4 separate custom emotes. With so many in the game, maybe it's time to upgrade this to an emote wheel, Bungie? Ships and transmat. In D1, you could only alter your transmat effects through consumables that would expire or from exotic class items. In D2, you can modify your transmat effect while editing your jump ship. You can also apply a shader to your ship now as well. Ghost projections. While not really relevant to the game, ghost projections are a new customizable feature that displays a projection when pulling out your ghost. There isn't much to them, but there are some cool looking ones. Titles. Titles were added to Destiny 2 and are a good way to show off your mastery of a certain area in the game. Completing all of the triumphs associated with a raid, dungeon, or season will let you display the title on your character screen for bragging rights. Emblem trackers. On top of equipping an emblem, you can also showcase a personal stat that will appear on your emblem and character card. This could be your KD ratio for the season in Crucible, how many clears of a certain raid you have, or even how many total kills you've gotten in Destiny 2 as a whole. Vehicles. Sparrows have been a part of Destiny since the beginning, but with D2 you are able to customize the color of your Sparrow, as well as the vehicle type, because as of early 2024 a new type of vehicle was introduced, the Skimmer. The skimmer is a rideable hoverboard that allows you to basically fly. As a side note, I also made a video on sparrows compared to skimmers and how sparrows could use some upgrades to help them compete with skimmers in this day and age. I'll have that video up on the screen now. Commendations. While not exactly cosmetic or crucial to the game, commendations were introduced during Lightfall. At the end of an activity, you have the opportunity to give out a certain number and certain type of commendation to other players. There are different types of commendations, and viewing somebody's character card can give you a good idea of types of activities that person does. And my last general point comparing D2 to D1 is the just overall amount of content we've gotten. Even with the Destiny content vault taking away whole campaigns and planets, we still have an overwhelming amount of content in D2, much more than we ever had in D1. So, if you haven't played Destiny 2, or haven't in a while, there is a ton of free content to try out, and even more with the expansions. So that was 50 gameplay improvements made in Destiny 2 compared to Destiny 1. What was your favorite improvements? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, this video was a lot of work and more ambitious than most of my Destiny content, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Stay tuned for future videos, and don't forget to check out some of my other Destiny content. I'll have some of those videos up on the screen now. And as always, thank you for watching.